evening, everyone, and welcome to Meet Touchstone Essentials Live Product Training Edition. And we've got Cindy Klement here. Cindy, thanks for being here. We're so glad to have you here as always.
Always my pleasure.
And as you know, for those of you that have been on with us in the past, Cindy has got a master's degree in nutrition. She's an adjunct professor. She teaches the doctors all about nutrition. She is an acclaimed speaker, a published author, nutritionist, herbalist, you name it. She's fantastic. And we want to always point out that she's got this wonderful book, Your Body's Environmental Chemical Burden, that's won all kinds of awards. We appreciate you being here. And it looks like you've got a brand new picture. Tell us about that.
I do. Well, tonight we're discussing getting more plant foods in our diet. And I just am so delighted to share that this little girl, my little granddaughter, she's 7, she is a huge fan of fruits and vegetables. And it's so interesting when they don't get a lot of junk in their diet, how, an apple, she's probably eaten in her 7 years, she's probably eaten a bushel full of apples already in her life. She'll eat a whole romaine leaf, a big leaf, and just munch it down like a little squirrel. It's really cute, but I always say I lived with the party store diet, Craig, because my parents truly did own a party store. And what that is where junk food is sold and liquor and things like that. And it was my health status, or really my lack thereof, that led me to nutrition today. So, as you said, tonight we're going to be talking about that plant-based diet.
Yeah, I remember the stories of your parents bringing you up that way and some of the challenges that created for you, and it led you to your health journey, right?
It did. Yeah. So even though tonight we're talking about a plant-based diet, just know that we're not advocating vegetarianism, but when we include more plants in our diet, it can significantly improve our health.
Absolutely.
So shall we take it away?
Please do.
All right, let's do it. So good evening, folks. I'm really glad you joined us tonight to learn all about plant-based diets. And a lot of the studies are showing that this is one of the most important food groups that we can put into our bodies, not to totally exclude animal foods, of course, but plant-based diet research has showed that stroke is 30% lower in men and 20% lower in women who are vegetarians, and that vegetarians have better mood profiles. They have less depression. They have a lower risk for developing colorectal cancer, ovarian cancer, breast cancer. They also experience less pain in the body. And of course, some very serious vegetarians that you might recognize: Abraham Lincoln, there was Benjamin Franklin, Albert Einstein, Gandhi, and of course, Paul McCartney. I'm so in love with him. So anyway, a good role model for me anyway. Now, I do want to point out that there are good vegetarians and bad vegetarians. And there's one myth that if it's vegetarian, it must be healthy. Well, many years ago, the physician that I work with, he sent a young girl to me who decided to become a vegetarian. And she was living, and I'm not exaggerating, she was living on gummy bears and soda, because that's vegetarian. It didn't have any animal products in it. Now, today, she's a 42-year-old woman. She's an excellent vegetarian. She's eating unprocessed plant food. She has successfully raised 3 children as vegetarians. So the point is you can have a bad diet, whether you eat a traditional Western diet or even a vegetarian diet. So we really do need to make wise choices. Now, this slide that you're looking at, I kind of changed it around a little bit. I wanted to give you an example of a very bad vegetarian diet that is considered low calorie, so to help with weight loss. And this was developed by Consumers Reports, honestly, probably 2 or 3 decades ago. But you can read it. For 1,400 calories, you could drink a 12-ounce Michelob beer. You could get about 2 ounces of what are called Atkins Cruncher chips. I don't even know what some of this is. You can eat a cup of Atkins ice cream. You can eat 2 of these Carbo-Right chocolate chip cookies, an eighth of a carb-counting cake, 10 pieces of candy. all of that is vegetarian, right? So it's that point that a diet can be bad no matter what you're eating, right? If it's vegetarian or Western diet. But the point is that a number of I should say, number of young people are adopting a vegetarian diet these days and are choosing to do so for a lot of different reasons. Some people are eating a vegetarian diet just to be healthier. Some are doing it to avoid hormones and antibiotics that are used in animal food production. And for others, it has to do with religion or animal rights or even environmental concerns. But our focus tonight is just why we should include more plants in our diet and the health benefits of plants. So you can get many of the health benefits of being a vegetarian without going all the way. And what I mean by that is the Mediterranean eating pattern. It's known to be associated with a longer life and a reduced risk of several of those chronic illnesses. And what they do is they have an emphasis on plant foods, but they include we'll say a sparing use of meat. And you would eat the meat in amounts that you would normally a condiment. So even if you're not a vegetarian, you can kind of steer your diet into a more plant-based dietary program. Now, plant-based diets, of course, provide antioxidants and fiber, and those are not found in animal foods. And fiber, of course, has heart protecting benefits, and it can also help to keep the blood sugar balanced. But compared with meat eaters or animal food eaters, vegetarians tend to consume less saturated fat, less cholesterol, and in addition, they get more vitamin C, vitamin E, they get more folate, more potassium, more magnesium, and then those phytochemicals such as carotenoids and flavonoids and things like that. And then as a result, they tend to have lower LDL cholesterol, lower blood pressure, a lower body mass index. And of course, all of those factors are associated with longevity and that reduced risk of many chronic diseases. Now, I want to ask if you are familiar with the residents of Loma Linda, California. It's actually a place in California that has made turning 100 no big deal. And Loma Linda is home to one of the highest concentrations of Seventh-day Adventists in the world. And Seventh-day Adventists are known as Americans' longevity all-stars, and they largely credit their long lifespans to their vegetarian diets and their health-conscious philosophy, which then contributes to significantly reduced rates of heart disease and cancer, which are, of course, two of Americans' biggest killers. Now, let me just see if I've got those slides through there. That's what I wanted to show you. Take a look at these young centenarians, some of which are 115 years old. Look at the fellow on the left there with the red gloves. He's 115 years old. He's still out gardening. The woman on the far right that's pumping her gas is a resident of Loma Linda, California. She's 106 years old. And where these images came from, about 17 years ago, Dan Buettner, he published his work called How They Live Longer in National Geographic magazine after he interviewed dozens and dozens of people between the ages of 100 and 115. And this is what he discovered. He said they were active every day. They put their family first. They didn't smoke. They kept socially engaged. They kept lifelong friends. They practiced religious observance. They had strong faith. They found purpose in their life. They ate smaller portions of food, but here it is. They ate fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and legumes. So again, it was that plant-based diet. Now, many of the studies that are done agree that a plant-based diet can offer a range of health benefits, and again, reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, certain cancers, type 2 diabetes, just all of that with additional benefits, able to decrease asthmatic symptoms, protect our bone health, and maintain a normal blood pressure. But here's another interesting thing. Switching to a plant-based diet can also help a person lose weight. But let's go to the concerns. There are concerns about a plant-based diet, and they mostly focus on nutritional deficiencies. So we're going to begin with iron and take a look at why we have these supposed deficiencies because vegetarians aren't eating meat. So in Western countries, the studies show that vegetarians get the same amount of iron as a meat eater, but the iron in meat, especially red meat, is more readily absorbed than the kind found in plant foods. But the plant iron is enhanced by vitamin C and other acids found in fruits and vegetables. So foods that are high in iron and vitamin C and some of these acids include things like artichoke, barley grass, cocoa, dandelion, kelp, quinoa, parsley, pumpkin, and even spinach. And all of these fruits and vegetables are found in organic super protein, in super green juice, in Boost Focus Fuel, as well as Super Greens Plus D. So we can get our plant iron. The next concern is calcium. Now, calcium helps to form bones and teeth. It makes them more resistant to breaks and decay. It's important for muscle contraction, for blood clotting. Calcium helps in sending nerve impulses through the body. But interestingly, osteoporosis rates are lower in countries where people mostly eat vegetarian diets. And the reason is animal foods can force calcium out of the body, creating bone loss and osteoporosis. So we've got plant sources such as barley grass and broccoli and grapes and kelp and kale and spinach and spirulina. And these foods are found in Super Green Juice, Essentials, as well as Super Greens Plus D. Now, vitamin D, it helps to form and maintain strong bones in our body. It helps to ensure that our blood has adequate calcium levels. Calcium is an alkalizer in the body. So, of course, our bodies can make vitamin D when our skin is exposed to the sun, but many of us living in the United States don't produce enough vitamin D from the sun exposure alone. Now, according to a study published long ago, 2009, although that seems so funny now that 2009 was so long ago, but the study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that the degree of one's skin pigmentation and the amount and intensity of the sun exposure have the greatest effect on the vitamin D level in our bodies. But if you live in a non-tropical place with little access to sunlight on your skin, like we do in Michigan, you can get a daily dose of vitamin D from mushrooms that are found in both Super Green Juice as well as Super Greens Plus D. Another nutrient in question was vitamin B12. Now, vitamin B12 is abundant in animal products. So if you avoid animal products altogether, you should get a daily serving of barley grass, dandelion, or oat grass, things like that. And they, too, are found in Super Green Juice, Essentials, and Super Greens Plus D. Zinc. Zinc is necessary for our proper blood sugar control. It helps to heal our wounds. It helps our immune system to function, especially at this time of year. And for people of all ages, it's especially important in growing teens. And the research shows that plant-based diets in the Western countries do not appear to be zinc deficient, but getting a good dose of zinc every day in cocoa, pea, dandelion, kelp, and spirulina can certainly augment that. So these are found in super green juice, organic super protein, as well as Boost Focus Fuel. Now, plant-based protein foods include legumes, nuts, seeds, and grains, and even some greens have protein in them. Now, because the protein in vegetables is somewhat different than animal protein, for a person consuming a very strict plant-based diet, they may need just a little bit more protein each day than a person that consumes animal foods. It's not much, but that person should strive for about 0.45 grams per pound of body weight each day. So easy math, of a 150-pound person would require about 67 grams of protein a day. A 100-pound person would be about 45 grams a day. A 200-pound person would be 90 grams a day. But what I love is that just one serving of the organic super protein provides 18 grams of protein, and yet it's only 110 calories. If you try to get 18 grams of protein from cheese, for instance, it's more than double that. It's almost 285 calories for that same amount of protein. So we can get these nutrients in these animal food, or in these plant foods, I'm sorry. Now, aside from the health benefits that we've been discussing, I want to also explore the environmental impact that plant-based diets have on our planet. But first, I want to establish what it means for something to be sustainable. The Environmental Protection Agency describes sustainability as conditions that support both humans and nature, and that will continue to do so for future generations. For example, a sustainable farm provides, of course, nutritious fruits and vegetables that support human health, while aiding nature by avoiding the use of pesticides and fertilizers that will harm plants or wildlife. The farm could also rotate the crops to maintain soil health, which makes that farmland usable for those future generations. Now, nearly 40% of the Earth's land is used for agriculture, for both crops as well as livestock. But here's the breakdown. Of that 40% of the Earth's land that's used for agriculture, 57% of that is used for producing animal foods, only 29% for plant foods, and about 14% or so for other land issues, for things like growing cotton or tobacco or things like that. Now, the United Nations projects that food production will have to increase by about 70% by the year 2050 to meet the increasing food demands of our world's population. And the best way to reduce that agricultural land use is to rely less on livestock and to rely more heavily on plants. And that said, the sustainable diet that is laid out by that commission doesn't call for a complete elimination of animal products in the diet. Instead, it recommends what they call a flexitarian diet, which is mostly plant-based foods, but it allows for small amounts of animal foods. And what they suggest is that you limit your intake of meat or poultry or fish, or all of them up together, to about 2.5 ounces a day. So it's not a complete elimination, but about 2.5 ounces per day, with about, believe it or not, 60 ounces of dairy each week. So, just averages there, but that's what they're recommending to help with this, with our land being used more wisely for plant production. But again, I want you to note that going plant-based doesn't automatically make the diet sustainable. So we should try to limit our processed food intake by supporting our local farms, and then learn about the foods that are native to the area in which you live. And as we just touched on a few minutes ago, some folks on a plant-based diet are doing so to avoid hormones and antibiotics in animal foods. For instance, growth hormones are a central part of meat production. They're used to control the growth, the amount of feed the animal requires, an animal's milk production, as well as that animal's, bulking them up with fat and muscle. The FDA approved a number of steroid hormone drugs for use in animals, including estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, both their natural and synthetic versions. And I think it's interesting to note that the cows that are treated with what is called recombinant bovine growth hormone, you may have seen that on some packaging, RBGH. The cows that are treated with that type of growth hormone reportedly have higher incidence of infections in the udder. And then these infections, of course, are treated with antibiotics. And like in humans, the high use of antibiotics can create a resistance to bacteria and making it difficult to treat. Now, of course, they say it's unknown at this point that antibiotics used to treat the mastitis can create harm in humans. So until more, as they call it, rigorous research is done, some people prefer to err on the side of caution. And among the experts who do advise caution, most say that prepubescent children are at the greatest risk, and that pregnant women may also want to use caution with these hormones and antibiotics. Now, the following tips can help you follow a more eco-friendly diet. And the first point is to get most of your protein from plants. Again, we don't have to exclude the animal products, but to get more protein from plants and eat, in general, more plants and fewer animal products. And we want to shop for foods that are more sustainably produced, as well as cook at home more often, because oftentimes, food that's cooked at home is more nutritious than food purchased at a restaurant or a fast food chain. And cooking at home also cuts down on the resources and the labor required for food production. And finally, number 5, we have to reduce our food waste. These figures, I'm just astounded. There's an estimated 30 to 40% of the food in the United States food supply gets thrown away. 30 to 40%, not in my home, but while some waste is inevitable, we have to minimize that food waste it's vital for our sustainability of this planet. And we need to aim to cook and eat more food before it spoils, and use as much of that edible portion as possible, eat our leftovers, and then even find new ways to use food scraps. But lastly, get a good plant-based cookbook, or just alter your favorite recipes. Try going meatless on Mondays, or just use meat sparingly. And when you eat out, try some of the amazing vegetarian entrees that are available today. My husband and I went out with some of his clients last Friday night, and the restaurant had the most amazing sweet potato gnocchis, and I was just in love with them. Had a little tiny sprinkle of goat cheese and some basil, and I could have eaten 3 bowls of it. I'm telling you, it was so good. So just be adventurous and just try that. And we can certainly make getting a plant-based nutrition a whole lot easier when we're using Touchstone Essentials' amazing products. And I do want to emphasize once again that these products are organic. They're gluten-free. They're vegan. There are no additives, no fillers, no added sugars, no artificial ingredients whatsoever. And that means that there are no artificial colors or flavors, just good old healthy, vibrantly colored plant foods. And as we discuss sustainability, Touchstone Essentials is all about not only being kind to our bodies, but to the environment as well. And that was one of the things that really attracted me to the company. Repurpose is the world's leading plastic action platform, and it has a global coalition of people and companies that are dedicated to reducing waste and then restoring nature's balance. There's about 381 million tons of plastic produced annually, with 91% of that plastic waste dumped into the environment or burned in low-income countries. But how exciting to have products that come in glass and in plastic that is repurposed. For instance, organic super fibers packaging is actually certified plastic neutral by Repurpose, which means that Touchstone Essential funds the removal of as much nature-bound plastic as they use in their packaging. And it's all part of Touchstone Essentials' ongoing efforts for sustainable and eco-friendly measures. And you need to be proud of this and share it with others, especially those Gen Z who are passionate about the health of our planet. So folks, that concludes our presentation tonight. I wanted to take this opportunity to wish you all a wonderful holiday season and to thank you for your constant support of my webinars. It's my absolute pleasure. It's my absolute honor to share my health knowledge with my Touchstone Essential family. And I truly thank you for this opportunity. I'm so grateful that you joined us this evening. And I'm going to remind you to join us again on January 12th, when we'll be discussing how to keep the cells in our body healthy. So good night, my friends. Merry Christmas and the happiest of 2023 to you all. Now back to you, Craig.
Awesome. Thank you, Cindy. What a wonderful presentation, as always. So important to think about getting more plants in our diets, plant-based diet, including more of that in our diet, maybe reducing the meats in our diet and all the challenges that can come from that. We appreciate your thoughts, your ideas, and everything that you share with us. We appreciate your expertise, and we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year as well. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you being here. We'll talk to you soon.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
everyone.